Good afternoon, everyone. Getting set up here. Just give us a second. Okay, we're going to start doing sound checks for directors. Director Kale.
Yeah, here.
Currently serving his 12-year sentence.
Excellent. Director Faria.
I'm here.
Excellent. Good afternoon. Director Nagy.
Here.
Good afternoon. We can
Good
hear
afternoon.
you. And we can see you.
I'm sorry.
See lots of folks joining us to observe the meeting today, or if you have various reports, so be patient with us. When your time comes on the agenda, we'll make sure you have all the audio and visual capabilities turned on from our end. Well, let's do some sound checks for staff. Christine, can we check your mic?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How about Eric?
Good afternoon, Mary Michael.
Good afternoon. Kyle? Kyle Loretto, can we check your mic?
Yes, there we go.
Excellent, thank you. Matt Fell.
Oh,
Hello there. You're always the wild card, you know,
Yeah.
with the computer the way it is. We can hear you though. Nav.
Afternoon, Mayor Michael.
Good afternoon. Stacy.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Emily.
Sorry, I'm slow today.
It's okay. Very good. We can hear you. Okay, we've got a few more directors. Director Aguilar, can we check your mic?
Test.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think Director Espinoza.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. And some staff. Kate, can we check your mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Joy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mary Michael, Chair Hogue is going to be making her way after class, so she'll be running a little late. So Vice Chairman Pereira is prepared to start the meeting when we're ready, but I don't know that he's on yet.
Okay, I will look out for him. I haven't seen him come on yet. And we have a phone number ending in 692. Is that a committee member? Board member? Phone number ending in 692, you are unmuted on our end. You'll have to press *9 on your end to unmute. Director McDaniel, can we check your mic?
Check.
Good afternoon.
Did Nav get a haircut? Because when the red tear, man, got her haircut.
I see Director Pereira, we see you. We'll get your mic turned on. 1 second.
There we go.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I believe there's 7 or 8 directors present currently. Director Pereira, I know it's 3:05. I will defer to you if you would like us to begin the meeting.
Let's give it just one more minute.
Okay.
Maybe a minute and a half.
Okay.
We are expecting a full house. We have a confirmation from everyone except one director. So that minute and a half might make the difference.
Oh, and we have Director Serrato. I see you've joined us as well. Can we check your sound? Don't mess with us.
It
Good
worked.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mary Michael. How are you?
Fine, and yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Wow. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you still hear me?
Yes,
Huh. Well,
we can see you as well.
yeah, my screen shows the launch meeting screen. Wow. Well,
You're probably looking at your browser perhaps?
oh, there we go. I found
yeah.
it. Thanks. Well, maybe we should start. Staff ready?
Yes, yes, we are.
All right. Well, I'll call to order the April meeting of the Merced County Association of Governments. Welcome, everyone. Would you please call the roll?
Director Aguilar,
Present.
Director Kale,
Oh, yeah, here.
Director Espinoza,
Present.
Director Faria,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Present.
Director Nagy,
Present.
Vice Chair Pereira,
Present.
Director Pedroso, Director Serrato,
Present.
Director Silvera, Chair Hoag. Thank you. We do have a quorum.
All right. Well, thank you. Mr. Kale, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand.
Ready, begin. I
Pledge
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Kale. Is there any adjustments to the agenda?
None from staff,
Okay.
Chairman.
Is there a motion to approve? Daniel will move. Second?
Thank you. A second.
Okay, so we got McDaniel and Nagy. Is there any discussion? Public comment? Nope. Okay, will please call the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso, Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, we have a comment. Public comment is available in advance of or during the meeting. Do we have any public comment that was given before the meeting?
We do not have any public comment that was received for any items or for general comment prior to the meeting. And for those that are attending right now, if you have any public comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. If you are calling in, you can do that by pressing *9. The directions are currently on your screen. So I'll give you another 5 seconds if you want to raise your hand. See no raised hands.
Right, well, thank you. Then we will close public comment, move to item 4, Citizens Advisory Committee Report, and that will be done by Jose Delgadillo. Is Jose on?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, directors. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Very good. 10 of your Citizens Advisory Committee members, 6 were absent, joined our April 2nd meeting to take action. Yes, action. We had a quorum. Thank you for reappointing Paul Villarreal for our CAC. The CAC took action. After you hear your well-prepared presenters, you will have the opportunity to do the same. Under public comment, thank you, Measure V crew. They came to my neighborhood to improve the surface of West Yosemite Avenue. Very well done. I sent a photo to Eva Garibay for her Measure V newsletter. And if you see any signs out there, you do the same. On information items, in the agenda packet, there were a few items as information, but were not discussed. Some examples: the November MCAG newsletter, quarterly financial report, MCAG board approved contract statuses. However, there was a lot of discussion on the action and discussion items. Under the action items, there were 5 action items that were recommended by a vote of 10-0 for you to approve the following. Approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 overall work program and budget presented by Nev Bagri. Adopt congestion mitigation air quality policy, update and release call for projects presented by Ty Fimason. Delay mid-cycle 2021 State Transportation Improvement Program programming presented by Ty Famison.
Oh,
Accept the West Side Commuter Bus Study presented by Mauricio Torres. Part of the discussion, van pools work better. Adopt Measure V regional project policies presented by Matt Feld. Under the discussion items presented by Matt brought a lot of discussion of Measure V. One of our CAC members brought a concern that In some ways, the unincorporated areas get less attention of the fund distributions, especially the west side. Under the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County, the action item presented by Christine Chavez, approve low carbon transit operation program allocation request for the purchase of 5 buses. CAC approved the recommendation by a vote 10-0. The discussion items. Christine presented the ridership update. Fixed route ridership is down. Operations and maintenance update. Began fare collection Monday, March 15th. Microbus update. Discuss description of the microbus and the locations the pilot program will take place. Neb, Bagri, and Christine presented the operating and capital draft budget fiscal year 2021-2022. Natalia Austin informed the committee that the current van pool status is 19 and is hosted by DIBS. The best part of my reporting is that your staff will present these reports in a professional manner. Overall, our meeting went quite well. Because of your outstanding staff, I believe our recommendations to you were well thought out. We are pleased the bus will provide free rides to the vaccination sites. Some of you probably are hesitant or refuse to be vaccinated. That is your right. However, if not for you, get vaccinated to protect those around you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very thorough and complete report, Jose. I appreciate that.
You are welcome.
Okay. Agenda item number 5 is information items. These items are included for informational purposes. No presentation will be made by staff unless board members have questions. These items were all in your packet. So does any of the board members have questions or comments? Mary Michael, do you see any raised hands?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move to item 6, consent calendar. What is the pleasure of the board? Are there any, first of all, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I see no raised hands.
Thank you. So is there a motion to approve these items?
Daniel moves to approve.
And that's items 6A, B, and C. Director McDaniel?
That is correct. Thank you.
All right. Is there a second?
Maria?
Okay. Did you catch the second?
Faria, yes.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Is there any public comment on these items?
There are no hands raised.
All right. Thank you. Would you please call the vote?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso, Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
yes,
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will move to item 7. These are action items. The first 7A is the adoption of the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality or CMAQ policy update and release call for projects. Ty, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, directors. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, hear you fine.
Great. The new 2021 FTIP is expected to be adopted or actually approved by the federal agencies this Friday. With that new 2021 FTIP, there are like new CMAQ funds in the latter 2 years of that 4-year document. So those new funds plus remaining funds for next year support staff's recommendation for another call for projects. As part of like the CMAQ call for projects process, staff reviews and updates the CMAQ guidance policy for the board's review and adoption. One thing I wanted to point out with the CMAQ policy update is the deletion of the state highway system scoring factor. It was set as like a -5 points if the project is on the state highway system. The TRB recommended that deletion. So other than that, the policy updates are provided. It is provided in the attachment, and nothing else has changed.
Okay. Is that the end of your report?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right. Are there any questions? I see none from the board, but are there any, well, is there any public comment?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Director Nagy has his hand raised.
Oh, I see it now. Yep. Director Nagy.
Yes, I had questions on page 98, where there's the -10 points if it's near a railroad, -10 points if it requires utility relocation, and -5 points for state highway. That was taken off. But it seems like the only positive points are 5. So if anybody's ever doing a project near a railroad that has to have railroad agreements or utility relocation, which is almost all, it seems like they're going to be just bumped off because they're -10 points assessed to that type of a project. That seemed like the only good points are 5 points, but the bad points are -10. So I don't know I don't know if that's really fair to everybody's projects.
If I could address those negative scores. So the intent of like the CMAQ funding, which we receive from the federal government, is to help with emissions benefits, to help our region reach attainment of criteria pollutants. So that's like ozone and particulate matter. So, and the feds are expecting, like, in a sense, like timely use of those funds to achieve those benefits. So with those projects that are near railroads and require utility relocations and don't have proper coordination with Caltrans, the actual implementation of those projects are at risk, which puts the CMAQ funding to the region at risk, which in a sense puts us in a negative light with FHWA if they ever question, like, what we do with our projects. So just so you know, every year I have to report on the FHWA database the CMAQ emissions benefits, again, in like the federal database. So basically, the CMAQ policy is meant to try to minimize risk while maximizing, like, those benefits.
And Kai, if I could just add, I mean, I think another way to say it too is that with utility relocation and with railroad involvement, the probability of significant delays is higher, which jeopardizes the overall like integrity or health of being able to keep the funds expended and moved so that we're not penalized or lose those funds in any kind of a rescission. So it's about trying to minimize the impact to the overall fund by projects not being able to move forward because of some of these more difficult components of it. I don't know if that's fair, Ty, or if you want to clean that up, but I think the 10 points recognizes that when it, the severity of the potential impact in terms of a delay.
Right. So
You
we've
say I'm
experienced
wrong
like
if I'm wrong.
yes. Well, we've experienced, I've been doing this for, forever, it seems like. And I've experienced like major delays with projects due to like needing to get railroad agreements and needing to get utility relocations and, working with Caltrans because, it's without proper communication with Caltrans, for instance, then, you're expecting them to prioritize their staff time on like these local projects on the state highway system. That's an example. But with utility relocations too, it's kind of difficult to get them to like respond in a timely manner. Same thing goes for railroads. So we've experienced, some major delays with program projects due to these like issues. So it's not saying like, these are not good projects. It's just they're posing a risk to the timely delivery of these types of projects.
Well, how many points does a project start with before they're added 5 or deducted 10? Is it based on that $45 per pound?
Oh no, the
I don't know.
$45 per pound is something else.
Okay, there's project A. Does every project start with X points?
No, the projects start with 0 points. So they just earn points along the way.
So then what, we might as well just say that if it's near a railroad or has utility relocation, that it's not eligible. Because if you start with 0, you can only get 5 and 5. But you can go -20. Right? I mean, if they start with 0 and you can only get 10 points total then, right? I'm trying to understand this. Is that correct? You can get 5
Well, if you
points.
get 0 in all the other categories, you can end up with a negative score, yes.
Ty, can you explain the other categories, how the evaluation of projects?
That's what I'm saying. Where do you start? Where does a project start as far as points?
Yeah, 0 to 100.
Yeah, 0 to 100. And I think what Director Nagy is getting at is, I think the clarification is these pluses and minuses you see are like bonuses and disincentives, but there's a evaluation process that can give a project from 0 to 100. You can get bonus points for these things and deducted points for those things. So they're like a secondary part of the criteria, but as Matt mentioned, it's a 0 to 100 evaluation.
Okay, so theoretically, if a project scored 100 and was deducted 10, it could still go forward because it would have a 90 score where other ones weren't scored as high.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And could I throw one other thing in? Ty, is it acceptable for a project to do that portion of the project with a different funding source and then come in and ask CMAQ for construction?
Yes, that's very possible. I mean, a project could come in and then they could get everything ready to go, construction ready. So they'll have like, the utility agreements and the railroad agreements and everything ready to go. And then they could just come in and ask for just construction funding. And with that, they won't get any negative deductions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me understand that. That was was in my mind. I didn't catch the whole deal. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for Ty?
Director Freya has his hand raised.
All right.
Thank you. Looking at page 100, pleased to see the increase in the van pool. And I'm very pleased to see the increase and see the funding for the signal synchronization. Does that mean we'll be pretty well figure on getting our signal synchronized in Los Banos?
That project came up in the last call for projects. So the board approved it last year for full funding. So initially, the city is getting like the money for like preliminary engineering. And then it's due to get the funding for construction too. And that was what was approved by the board last year.
Thank you very much. Very much.
Sure.
Los Banos very much appreciates it.
Okay, any other hands raised?
I do not see any.
Okay, we'll go. Is there any public comment?
There are no hands raised.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Which generally means we would like a motion to.
Daniel will move.
All right.
Maria will second.
All right, so it's been moved by McDaniel, seconded by Faria. Any other board comment? Seeing none, we'll please call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Well, at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to our chair. April, we're on item 7B.
Okay, thank you, and sorry for the delay. Took a little while to get to from Fresno. So we're on item 7B. This is a request to delay the mid-cycle 2021 STIP programming, and that would be Ty as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair, directors. So every 2 years, the California Transportation Commission, the CTC, updates to 5-year STIP. Prior to these STIP updates, the CTC looks at transportation revenues and provides target shares to regions and to Caltrans. With the regional target shares, regions could submit the RTIPs to propose the programming of these funds to RTP projects. And these programming proposals could be approved or rejected by the CTC. So the last STIP that we did was, or the last STIP update was the 2020 STIP, which included the CTC approved MCAG RTIP request to program $29 million or so for the construction of the AME project. When the board, MCAG board adopted the 2020 RTIP, the board also adopted the Pioneer Road funding priority policy, which designates this project as the priority for future regional funding, including like the STIP. So the next regular STIP update will be the 2022 STIP, which will kick off this summer. This staff report addresses the irregular stimulus infusion of STIP funds made available by this past winter's COVID Relief Act. In case regions wanted to like program these like stimulus STIP funds immediately to a project or projects, the CTC put into place the 2021 mid-cycle STIP and set the deadline of next Friday for proposals. For our region, the mid-cycle target share is about $1.5 million. So per the Pioneer Road funding priority, staff reached out to Los Banos, and it was collectively proposed to delay the programming of the $1.5 million target share and have these funds carry over to the upcoming 2022 STIP, which again will kick off this summer. And I could take any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? I don't see everybody here, so,
There are no hands raised, Madam Chair.
okay. All right, then do we have any comments from the public?
No, we do not.
All right, then is there a motion to approve the delay of mid-cycle 2021 State Transportation Improvement Program?
This is Lloyd, so moved.
Nagy, second.
All right, Joy, can we call for the vote?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7 is a request to adopt the Measure V regional project policies and to issue a call for projects. Matt?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So last month we brought through all the committees a draft of some proposed Measure B regional project policies in preparation to issue a call for projects for this year's Measure B implementation plan update, which is due in the fall. So every 2 years, the implementation plan is updated. And those policies, there were some suggestions from the governing board last month, which we did incorporate in the policies. And then additionally, we did get some recommendations from the TRB yesterday. And so I wanted to share those with you. But first I wanted to talk about the implementation plan, the call for projects and the implementation plan itself. So there was another suggestion yesterday to give a little bit more time for the project applications. So let's see, in the staff report, I had said that if this action was this month, then we would give until the end of June for applications or programming requests. And then following that is where the regional project committees deliberate and ultimately make project recommendations to the board. And then all of the implementation plan pieces, putting that together, doing public hearings and so forth follows that. But they did ask for more time for that. So August 31st would be when the project applications would be due per that recommendation, and then all those other things would follow. So depending on how long it takes for the RPC process, that could result in a draft implementation plan in October, November, just as an example, by allowing a little bit more time for those applications. So now I want to make sure I have the document. Okay, I want to go ahead and show the revised document based on the TRB suggestions yesterday. So it's this one right here. So in your packet, there was some yellow highlights, which were things that the governing board had suggested at your meeting last month. And then in this document, I've highlighted in this blue, just reorganizing the document itself to make it into one document. And then, so the TRB did ask that future calls for projects initiate the call for projects earlier. So we put February 1. So that would give plenty of time for jurisdictions to prepare applications and requests, and then RPC's plenty of time to deliberate. So that's a change from your packet. The administrative amendment language was in your packet. That's where up to, if there's a cost increase on a project, that could be done administratively by the executive director, so long as the cost is not more than 20% of the total cost and is also not more than 500,000 total. So the board asked to see a hard cap on that. So we put in 500,000. And of course, that's subject to your input and your recommendation, what you'd like to see there. And then this green part is something that the TRB pointed out, something that the board has already done. And we talked about putting this in here. So this is where what was done with the Gustine regional projects, the extra money from, I think it was the storm drainage project, got moved over to the airport, the other project. So that could also be handled administratively, transfer cost savings from a finished regional project to another regional project being done by the same agency. So that could also be discretionary. So that was fortuitous that happened, that those projects were both underway at the same time. So that was a relatively smooth shift of funds from one that had extra to one that needed a little more. And this green part is saying the same thing. It's just talking about cost savings. In some cases, cost savings, it may be appropriate to shift those immediately to another. And then, so on the advanced fund, so the governing board did ask if there were ways that funds could be advanced to a regional project, and that the TRB did discuss that a bit yesterday and suggested limiting that upfront cash to a 90-day revolving window operating cash. And then we staff think that it would also be reasonable to limit it to no more than 20% of the project total. So this can be funds that can get a project going. Like, for example, if there's a regional project where the Measure V regional funding is the only funding the project has, it might be hard to do a lot of work before getting reimbursed for that. So this would provide, upon request, a cushion to get the project started, and then reimbursement requests can be submitted and we pay those within 5 days. So then that would keep the cash flowing. So that was the recommendation of the TRB yesterday. And that was it. So all of the other things are what's in your packet. And our requested action is to adopt these regional project policies and then direct staff to issue a call for projects with a due date of August 31st. And if you have any questions or comments, I would be happy to take those now.
April, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's try that again. Are there any questions from the board?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, and are there any comments from the public?
Not that I can see.
Okay, then we need to have a motion. Does anybody want to have a motion to adopt the Measure V regional project policies as they are written now?
I'd like to move to adopt the regional project policies as written with the amendments made. This is Nagy. Thank you.
Daniel will second.
Okay, Joy, do you want to call for the vote?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso, I'm sorry, Director Pedroso, Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 7D is a request to award the 2021 Ana Maria Fuentes Scholarship, and that's Mary Michael report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here today for the conclusion of the Ana Maria Fuentes Scholarship Program for this year. As you will recall, the application was released to all Merced County high schools in October of last year and closed at the end of February this year. We received applications from 24 eligible candidates, and Lauren Franzese of Livingston High School is being recommended by the selection committee, which consists of Director Pedroso, MCAG staff, and the Fuentes family, for the $1,000 award that is able to be renewed annually. Ms. Franzese is a highly accomplished young lady with all her awards and achievements listed in the staff report, and she will be attending Stanford this fall. So I think we can all agree that she's probably very gifted intellectually. Staff would be happy to answer any questions. And I think Director Pedroso has rejoined, so I don't know if he has anything else he'd like to add or highlight.
Are there
No,
any questions? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what, I'm having some connectivity issues. It was a cool thing to go over these applications and be able to support Ms. Franzese for this scholarship. I think it's really important to do that, and I think that's one of the good things that we get to do. So much so we have, unfortunately have to make tough decisions, and this was a tough one because all of the applicants were very deserved of this, but I'm happy that what we're doing and being able to provide this for her, which would be awesome. So that's it.
Okay, does anybody have any questions from the board?
I don't see any, Madam Chair.
All right, are there any comments from the public? Mary Michael, do you see anybody?
Nope.
All right, then we need a motion to approve the award of 2021 Ana Maria Fuentes Scholarship to go to the Livingston student.
As President, would like to make a motion.
Then I'll second that.
Joy, do you want to take a roll call?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 7E is a request to authorize a contract for the travel demand model update, and that would be from Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair and directors. What we're requesting here is authorization for the executive director to enter into a contract not to exceed $150,000 for some specialized professional services for updating our travel demand model. And I wanted to tell you the situation that has prompted this. So we do have our regional transportation plan that's updated every 4 years. And it includes not only a whole host of analysis about all of the needs and projects for the next 25 years, but there's a component called the Sustainable Community Strategies that looks at achieving a target for greenhouse gas reduction that's set by the state. And that piece of the RTP, the SCS, is basically judged by the Air Resources Board. They determine if it is passing essentially, and they ask for a lot of information in order to make that determination of if we pass or not. And so much of that information does come from the travel demand model. And we did, in the previous RTP SCS, experience some challenges with passing, but we did eventually make it. There was a lot of back and forth with the ARB staff providing information, and they have questions that they need answers for. And right now we're in the process of the 2018 RTP SCS evaluation by ARB. And it is again proving to be challenging. And we feel like, well, we know that it is largely because of some of the aspects of the travel demand model. So we use a 3-county travel demand model. San Joaquin County, StanCog, Stanislaus County, and ourselves have been doing this for a number of years. And until recently, we thought it was going to be beneficial for this round and the next round because we thought we were passing pretty well. But the ARB has asked so many questions about the model that we're having to make some adjustments in order to have any chance of passing. So we're doing that. But what this means is that for the next RTP that we're about to start, we really feel like we need to make some changes. So StanCog has already exited the 3-county model, so to speak, and they're taking their own destiny into their own hands. And we think that we need to do the same. So it means that time's of the essence, and the company that built this model and is the experts on this model also has a really good working relationship with Air Resources Board and can support us when we go through the review process. And so we have a scope of work for developing a single county model, being able to control our own destiny, as much as we can. And we feel like improve our chances going forward with these efforts. And it's very important. It was already important for the RTP to be approved and the SCS to be approved, but the state has added requirements to some of the funding sources that your SCS has to pass. So there's things like the trade corridor program from SB1 where you can't get that money unless the SCS is passing. So that's just to emphasize how important this work is. So with that, we'd like to request authorization for the director to enter into a contract not to exceed $150,000 to do that work. If you have any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. I don't see any show. Oh, yes, I do. Tom, go ahead. Oh, Director Faria. Go ahead.
Call me Ray, or you can call me Bill. Now I'm dating myself. I do that a lot. It's easy. The source of the funding for this 150,000 maximum is what?
Yes, thank you. I probably should have explained. The PL is Metropolitan Planning Funds that we get from the federal government that funds the majority of our planning work. And I forgot to mention that we did budget in this year's budget for travel model improvements. Not necessarily this specific one, but this was one of the eligible uses for those funds that we had budgeted just in case, because we kind of thought that it might make sense to do this, but we didn't feel confident enough to pull the trigger, but now we feel like we need to.
Yeah, it seems San Joaquin County and Stanislaus County are far more closely associated with the East Bay and San Francisco Bay Area, whereas Merced County, Los Panos is, has a lot of association with the South Bay, but that's about it. So I like the idea of going out on our own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board?
I see no hands raised.
All right, are there any comments from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, then is there a motion to approve
Faria
the?
will move.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
yes,
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel.
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 8. These are 2 discussion items. Item 8A is a transportation planning and Measure V update, and that would be Matt as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair and directors. A couple updates. One is Measure V annual report was released, and yeah, this doesn't work, huh? I forgot about that. But I could do this real quick. Watch this. There we go. All right, so there it is. Measure V annual report. And it's in Spanish too. So kudos to the public information team and the planning team and accounting team and everybody who was involved. It's a team effort. And this is the third one, and each one has featured a different design to keep it exciting and refreshing. And this continues that trend. So that's out. So that's a major accomplishment. And reporting out to the community to show them all the great things that are happening. Those pictures, we use those pictures that you send to us of your projects, and it really demonstrates that the money is being put to work. High-Speed Rail Authority approved their 2020 business plan, and they submitted that to the legislature for their approval, hopefully, fingers crossed. So this is the one identifies Merced, Fresno, Bakersfield, and is a piece of all of the rail stuff that's hopefully going to be happening in the North Valley. There's been a lot of federal activity in transportation, and it's quite exciting. This is something that happens every few years. So the administration has proposed a American Jobs Plan, kind of a stimulus thing, a lot of funding there for transportation potentially, if that moves forward, and then also conversations in Washington about reauthorization. The transportation reauthorization expires in September of this year. So they may take that up, and there may be some new funding programs and so forth. And the things that are being talked about are similar to some of the things that California already does. So we think California will be well positioned. And then lastly, just wanted to mention, yesterday we had a short conversation with the TRB about a potential regional bike plan study. This is something that we can pay for with our planning funds, and wanted to see what the level of interest might be. There were several that expressed interest. And so some of you have bike plans already that have varying levels of recency and detail, and a regional plan can connect those and also shore up anything that you might need in your local area. So this is something that will come back with more information at a later date. And that's my report. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Okay, are there any questions from the board?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okey doke. Then we're moving on to item 8B, the Caltrans report. And I'm not sure if there's anybody from Caltrans.
Yes.
Do we have?
We
Yeah.
have Dennis Agar
Yes.
and crew on the line.
Okay, I thought that was him, but I wasn't sure. So go ahead, Dennis.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the board as well, and of course, Executive Director Stacy Guzman. Thank you for allowing us to give our Caltrans report. And if I could also ask if we could have Marlon Regisford join in as well. I'm just going to cover a few items, and then I'd like him to cover some of the more detailed items. If we can make that happen, I would appreciate it. So let me just start with some of the statewide efforts that we're doing in Caltrans. Number one, just to share that our Caltrans director recently released our new Caltrans strategic plan, which consists of our new mission, vision, goals, and of course our values. That was released early in March. We are rolling a lot of that out, of course, internally. And we look forward to working with all our partners in regards to our strategic plan, especially in regards to our mission. And if you haven't seen it yet, our mission is to provide a safe and reliable transportation network that serves all people and respects the environment. That speaks a lot into where we're headed as far as our vision and our mission. We're looking beyond just the infrastructure improvements that we do across the state, but we are also staying focused on the people and the environment. Some of our goals and our values look through the lenses of equity, climate action, and of course, engagement and partnerships. So I know that my team and I here in District 10 are fully committed to work with all of our partners, such as MCAG, to continue with these new types of projects with these types of lenses. Of course, there'll be challenges along the way as far as our priorities and how we utilize all sources of funds, whether it's state, local, or the federal government. And as Matt mentioned, US DOT, and hopefully we will see that the $2 trillion get approved. Part of that dollars is a big infrastructure proposal that would help the transportation network as a whole. I know that specifically they're committing $621 billion total for transportation infrastructure. But part of that is going to be dedicated for roads and bridges, and of course, electrification of vehicles. And we're hoping that, again, we can look for opportunities here in MCAG to utilize some of those dollars once they come available. The other update I do want to mention is that statewide and here in District 10, we continue to work hard to keep up with the litter and of course the encampments and the homelessness that we're dealing with down in the valley. I know that we have continued discussions and partnerships with the city of Merced. We look forward to continuing some of these ideas of delegated maintenance agreements that would help address the litter especially. And we continue to appreciate those partnerships. Statewide, it's a big issue as well. We're relocating or redirecting resources to stay focused on this. As a matter of fact, we've given orders statewide that our maintenance crews themselves, for every first and third Thursday of the month, we're going to be doing a stand down specifically to do litter abatement. So you'll be seeing a lot of us out there cleaning up our highways, especially and just to keep up with the litter out there. And again, we continue to appreciate working with the support services in the county and the city in dealing with the encampments within our right of way, and of course within the city's right of way as well. Lastly, I just want to mention that normally this time of the year we hold our annual workers memorial, and that's in again dedication for all our employees that we've lost on the job, and we're going to hold that this coming April 29th. Although it's going to be virtual, they will have a few folks at the Capitol, which is where we normally hold it, and then a lot of us will be joining virtually. So we look forward to again reminding ourselves and keeping in memory of all the folks that we've lost doing their job. Just to share, and I think I've shared this in the past, just last year, and like within 3 months, the work zones that we hold out there, especially the construction work zones, we've lost 6 lives just in the months of October to December of 2020. And that's 6 lives that way too much that we again don't like to see. Our goal is towards 0, and we're going to continue to do whatever we can to enhance safety within our construction and maintenance work zones. So I want to stop there, and if you don't mind, if Marlon has joined us, Marlon, did you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. Hopefully you can hear me, and thank you to the board. Thank you to Chair Hogue, and thank you to Director Guzman. I appreciate the time. I'll just be brief with a couple of things to add on. And I definitely was happy to hear about the regional travel demand model efforts. I think that's going to be helpful for the county, and I do support that. But I do want to mention a couple of things that we are doing on Caltrans' behalf, some of our latest planning efforts. One of those being the active transportation plan, which I've mentioned at previous meetings, but we did release our second draft out to the public, and we would hope that folks received that email. I did send that out last week, I believe, but we do have that information available. If you'd like, feel free to email me if you'd like a copy. We're inviting our folks to review. A couple of weeks, I believe we've given. Let me see if I can pull up the date here, but we also do have the survey still available for folks to participate in as well. We're looking for comments actually on the draft by April 30th. So about 15 days, hopefully you'll get a chance to review and comment if possible. This is going to really lead our efforts in the near to medium and long term for our bicycle and pedestrian accessibility and safety. So any comments, questions, concerns, we'd happy to hear those information and feedback that you can participate in. The other thing I'd like to mention is our advanced mitigation program. And I did also recently send an email regarding that. We're beginning our efforts in identifying particular areas that we should be focusing on as a district to enhance our habitat and wildlife connectivity and safety as well. And this will have impact on future projects that we'll be programming and constructing and partnering on. So I did provide that information, but if you have any questions or concerns on that, and if you'd like further information, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to share that information with you. We do have a workshop on that coming up. We have 2 workshops, one on the 21st, which is next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and we do have another one on May 7th, which is a Friday at 2:30. All this information is actually also on our Caltrans headquarters website. To register for these trainings, these workshops, the registration information is also on our Caltrans website if you'd like to take advantage. And I did also lastly want to mention our federal reauthorization, as Matt had mentioned. It's kind of an exciting time. There's a lot of transportation funding that may be on the horizon for us and our partners to take advantage of. So we're really keeping close track on that. And that involves, of course, the reauthorization of funding, also the potential earmarks, as well as the latest funding call. And I'm paying close attention to the new funding call, which came out, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago, it was formally billed and now it's called RAISE. So I want to make sure I get the name right, but it's Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. So our federal partners are also focused on sustainability and equity, as Dennis mentioned, as we are with our strategic plan. But the applications and the notice for funding opportunity is due on July 12th. So we have an opportunity to really think about how we want to pursue funding for the future. This is an opportunity for our partners. So I want to put that out there for the board's consideration. Other than that, just one project update I wanted to mention as well. 140 Plainsburg Road in Planada, that project is moving into environmental phase. So I just wanted to inform the board that that is the case. We did confirm that, and so we are moving forward. But other than that, I will pass it back to the board. And if there's any questions, concerns, comments, we'll be happy to hear. Thank you.
Okay, I see that there's some questions. So Supervisor McDaniel.
Thank you, Chair Hoag. Dennis, I just have a question. I had a meeting yesterday with the chairman of the board of supervisors in Madera County. And I know we're talking about this funding that we can keep going. We're part of the coalition that want to finish the 99 project. And they were going out for a build or an IMPA grant. And I was informed that Caltrans did not support their application. And I was wondering, going forward, is that something that we need to address, or if you're aware of that non-support? And I think the CTC took a position of non-support as well.
So thank you, Director McDaniel. Unfortunately, I'm not up to speed with the Madera project and the non-support that was unfortunate from Caltrans or from the CTC. I'll need to look at that. Definitely, we need to continue to look in advance of all these potential projects on State Route 99. One of the efforts, as you already know, working with our headquarters leadership, along with Diana Gomez, my counterpart in District 6, putting together our State Route 99 summit, and hopefully that will happen here in this next late summer when everyone can return in person. That's our goal. Part of that summit will be having these difficult conversations in regards how do we continue to fund these projects that will finish up State Route 99, especially the gap closures that still exist today. And that's something that, of course, we're going to have separate meetings with Marlon and Stacy to look at those gap closures and see not only what funding is available, but how can we make sure they're very competitive so that when we do submit our applications, we have a better chance of getting those funding, whether it's federal, state. Again, that's something that that's our goal, and we just got to sit down and make sure we work it out to make sure it meets the priorities of these fundings that are becoming available, and I believe we can do that. So that's the most I know about, Director, and I will do my follow-up with my counterpart down in District 6.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. And I know that you and Marlon both know the critical lifeblood of 99 as a goods movement corridor. And I think with everything going to electrification, I don't think I can speak too far, but I think every director here is wanting to have a cleaner environment and move forward that way. But even with all the battery cars that are coming, they're still going to need roadways. And our goods need to still get to the Western United States. And I mean, I've had Ratto Brothers kale in Washington, D.C. So our produce moves all the way across the nation, and we supply them. So I just want to make sure we keep that narrative going, and we do need to stop those pinch points. So I appreciate you being aware of it and your guys' work for that. But this, that the chairman had brought that to my attention, I thought it would be wise for just to remind us and keep us on the same page. So thank you for your outlook on that.
Okay, Director Serrato, do you have a question as well?
Yeah, real quick, Dennis and Marlon, I just got a text a little while ago from a friend of mine who's working on a mural that he actually wants to put on Caltrans property underneath. It's impressive. It's a nice project. Who would be the best person to talk to? Is that something you guys even entertain, or one and two? Who would be the best person to continue the dialogue there?
Yes, thank you, Director Serrato. Absolutely, we do look for these types of opportunities as well. And if it's something that's either adjacent or within our right-of-way, my office of traffic operations under permits is probably the right person to talk to. I can make sure that my deputy of traffic operations reach out to your office, or if you have a contact person you want to pass on to me, I'll make sure you're talking to the right person. And that will be our encroachment permit office. Again, if you want to pass on a name of who you want us to contact, we'll be happy to do that. You can send the information to both Marlon and I, and we'll follow up and follow through.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll send you an email shortly.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Director Espinosa.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Yeah, just the question, obviously on the Highway 140, Dennis, Marlon mentioned that that the environment has started on the Highway 140 and right there in the corner on the light. But if we could get more conversation, I would like to have some more communication to make sure that we both sides know what's going on there in regards to whether it's going to be the stop signs can be there, or the roundabout, or the lights. I don't know which one you mean. I'm moving forward on the environment. So if you can just please contact me. I know that Stacy has all my information, and that we maybe set up a meeting and make sure that we're both sides are on track to with what the community needs as well too. So I know that they've been hesitant on the roundabout, but we need to have more communication. That way, we don't get a lot of people upset. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Director Espinosa, and fully aware of that challenge. Part of our environmental process is to reach out to the communities and making sure that we get their input in regards to the type of intersection improvement we'll do at that location at Kingsburg Road and 140. We definitely will follow up with a separate meeting with you and give you the status of that, and actually inform you of the whole process so you're comfortable with that, and along with that process, when we're going to have the public input before any decision is made.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Are there any other hands raised?
No, there are not.
All right, then we are going to go to item 9, moving into the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County agenda, and there are no informational items, so we're going to move to item 10. This is the consent calendar. Unless any of the directors would like to pull an item from a separate consideration for action, these two items can be acted upon in one motion. The actions are to approve the MOU between the authority and the Merced College for Student Transportation Services, and B, to approve the LCTOP allocations request for a purchase of 5 buses.
Daniel moves for a motion.
But I have to ask if there's any questions first. Sorry, you went too fast.
I see no hands raised.
I'll leave the motion on the floor if somebody wants a second.
Okay, well, are there any questions from the public first?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. Director McDaniel.
Second.
Okay, let's call for the roll.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira. I'm sorry, Director Pereira, Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so now we're moving on to item 11. It has one action item. Item 11A is a request to complete the pre-construction phases of the Transit Administration Office project, and this is Stacy. So take it away, Stacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. The Transit Administration Office project started 5 years ago with the acquisition of the building that is right next to MCAG. It's at 357 West 18th Street. And that started under the leadership of 2 executive directors ago, Margie Kern, right before she departed in 2016. You can see the building here is in need of some repair. But in the 5 years since we had purchased this building, we've developed a project budget. It's been carried forward from budget year to budget year. We at some point initiated the design and the engineering phase. We had started making progress in bits of fits and starts under the different, I'll say, administrations. But that project was really impacted by the period over the last couple of years that MCAG had the change in leadership. So this project has been impacted by the decisions from 3 different executive directors and 3 different transit managers in the short time of 5 years. So it has a little bit of a history. But we're at a point because of some of the federal funding that has been programmed to this project, and quite frankly, from just a need standpoint, that we need to make the decision to either move forward with the completion of this project or communicate to the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, that we'll be deobligating the funds and returning them back. So I'll explain that in a little more detail, but the action itself sounds a little technical, but the underlying decision I'm looking for is really the green light from the board to proceed with completing this project. And this action today would get us all the way to the construction phase. We'd go all the way to being able to bid out the project. And then the board, of course, would take action to execute a construction contract sometimes towards the end of the year. So I kind of gave you the summary, and I'll walk through a couple of details here. So originally the building was purchased by MCAG in hopes of expanding our conference room that I know all of you have been in. The idea was to expand that wall out, add easier to access additional bathrooms up front and creating some additional office space. But that initial engineering resulted in discovering that you can't actually create an entrance internally between the two buildings. They're actually different structures and different walls. And so it wasn't going to be possible to expand. So at that time, the board supported the decision or directed staff to sell the building to the Transit Joint Powers Authority. And that was in, I believe, 2017. And then since then, that's when I've described kind of this fits and starts as, we had a previous executive director in, and then I came on board and a couple of transit managers in between, not to mention some competing priorities. If you can think back over the last couple of years, we were completing a almost $9 million transit operations and maintenance facility. So this project has not progressed on the schedule, I think, that the original intention was. So in terms of purpose and need, this project has always been about creating more space, more office space, more conference room space, storage space, more bathrooms. We are crammed a bit in our downtown office. We now have 28 staff working out of our downtown office. And we have a mix of single occupant offices, shared offices, single cubicles, shared cubicles. And as you can imagine, during COVID, that has been an extra challenge to make sure everyone is safe in their workspaces. I think, though, what the most significant or frequent points of congestion are with those shared facilities that we have. We only have 3 bathrooms, 3 single occupant bathrooms for 28 people. And then, you add a TRB meeting or a Citizens Advisory Committee meeting or any other kind of meeting, and that quickly becomes an inadequate facility to meet the needs. So also our break room is for our 28 staff, only holds 4 people. And right now, during the COVID situation we're in with social distancing, that means a staff room, a break room for 1 person. So that's another, we're just busting at the seams. We're outgrowing our facility. So the next door project would relocate our 9 transit staff. So the transit staff for the bus and yards, which would free up 5 office spaces, 2 cubicle spaces, and would essentially reduce the demand on our shared facilities by 1/3. So what the project entails, the property itself is a little over 3,000 feet. It's long and linear. It's wedged between, like I said, MCAG and Slater's, the furniture store on 18th Street, and it was formerly a thrift shop. As you can see, since it has been vacant, which we use it for storage at this point, it has been subject to vandalism, and we have been holding off, even though it's a terrible eyesore, over the last couple of months to not replace the glass, because it would, be all the storefront would be completely reconfigured as part of this project. And of course, an ADA accessible entrance. And so all of that would look completely different and no longer an eyesore downtown. It would house a conference room and restrooms located at the front end of the building to make public access easier. Our transit services are the most in demand in terms of public access to our work. We don't get a lot of folks coming in for planning issues, planning questions. We get people come in for bus passes, getting their pictures taken, getting the kinds of credentials they need for different programs, at wanting yards passes, things like that. So we wanted to make sure that this building was a more publicly accessible, user-friendly building, so that you weren't traipsing across the building like you all have to do when you visit us, and our facilities are in the back. The design includes 5 offices, It has 2 areas that are dedicated to either cubicles or open workspaces, a break room large enough that can be shared by MCAG staff as well, since we're all MCAG, but it could be shared by staff from both buildings. A storage room, and then gated parking that would expand between the 2 buildings. We have been subject to vandalism with the agency-owned vehicles so frequently in our alley where we park that we no longer keep the agency vehicles here. They're stored at the, that's MCAG vehicle and the transit vehicle. They're stored at the operations and maintenance facility on the other side of South Merced, where it's gated and secured. So this project would add a gated parking structure out. That sounds a lot more sophisticated. It would essentially enclose our parking and allow us to have more secured storage of our vehicles. This is the beauty as it stands right now. It just gets better. But you can see that the design on the left there is in your packet, but you can see how narrow it is in comparison to the MCAG building. And as it stacks, it's the entry, the lobby, which would be a controlled access lobby for security reasons. And then it would be conference room, bathrooms, offices and cubicle workspace, break room, storage, and then the parking facility in the back. So you can see the pictures here. The one on the right is you're looking at 18th Street. So it's as if you were looking at the front door. And the one on the left in the middle of the screen is the look as you walk in from 18th Street, looking towards the back of the building. I'll talk about the project costs and our budget, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. So we sunshined this project with the TRB earlier this year, and they gave us really good feedback on the details that we needed to share. And part of it was, tell the whole story on the whole project cost. So what we have here are the funds that we've spent to date over the last couple of years. That really include just the purchase of the building and those partial pre-construction phases in the total of $283,000. And then the estimated cost of the remaining work through construction is $1.1 million. That includes the $40,000 that would be amended into the architect and engineering, which is part of the action today to complete the design and to handle some of the construction oversight, which we originally had almost $100,000 contract to do. We're now going to be able to do that in-house with our assistant transit manager for maintenance, with some additional oversight from Comstock, who we have for architect and engineering services. And that also includes an updated an updated construction estimate of $950,000 and a 10% change order budget, which is consistent with all of our construction projects. So of that 1.1 million that is needed to complete the project, we have $829,416 of unexpended board approved funds for this project. As I mentioned, it's been in the budget year to year. Those are board approved. Those are unexpended, which really means we only have a funding gap of $266,000. So the action that's before you today is to utilize, I'm gonna get my mouse here if you can see it. There we go. This first column is that 854 that the board has already approved. And you can see where those sources come from. LTF is included in a nominal amount as a grant match. That's a required local grant match for our 5339 and some of our other funding here. But all of these are board approved already. This number in the box is what we need to close the gap on this project. And this middle column shows the available funding that transit has that we normally, through the normal budget process, allocate to our projects, whether they're bus stop improvements or purchase, whatever the slate of capital projects or other projects are. This is the process, and these are the funds that we would use. So what we're showing here is that we have some unprogrammed federal funds, some state funds that total $1 million that we are in the middle of programming to projects. And 266,000 of that could fill the funding gap, which means it wouldn't use any additional LTF funding or anything like that. It would be the existing funding sources. These are just future allocation years. These are previous allocation years. And that's how we could fill the gap. I do want to talk, it's very important. This is a big part of this project. This amount of 587,404, those are considered lapsed federal funds, meaning we, according to FTA, we use them for this purpose, this project, or we return them to the FTA. They cannot be reprogrammed or used to any other project. This was a decision that was made several years ago. It is not able to be changed at this time. And also part of the need to just make a decision about this project is the FTA is in frequent communication, wanting to know, when are you going to spend this money? And on a quarterly basis, we have to report back to them. And there is a risk of us losing this money if we don't use it and start showing progress on the project. Okay, and then so I'll just walk through, and I promise I'm almost done here. This is just the requested action. I want to clarify that this action is A, B, C, and D. It's all of that is one action. I just broke them up to help make them a little more digestible. Action A would add that $40,000 to our existing architect and engineering services to complete the design, get the 100% design cost estimate for construction updated, and would provide some construction oversight. I added sub bullets because there's a lot of history to that contract. So it's all in the staff report, but I wanted to just show how that has progressed. And then B, C, and D essentially are the actions needed to program these dollars to the project. So I just wanted to break them up to make them be a little clearer. And then the last thing that I want to just talk about is just the next step. So this was something the TRB asked about yesterday and suggested we include. I think it was an excellent idea. So if the board approves this item, the immediate next step is to submit that grant application for those funds and amend the FTIP. That would be something that you'd probably see on consent if it in the future, in the summer, which is just a programming document for these dollars. And then we would go to Comstock in the meantime, would be completing the project design, and we would anticipate that to be completed by June, July. We would then work with the city to complete, Comstock, we'd be working with the city to complete the permitting and plan approval process by the end of the summer. And then be working to release the construction bid documents by early fall, and then be bringing back that award for approving or executing the construction contract by the end of the year, with construction to begin shortly thereafter. I know that was a lot. I apologize for the dissertation staff report, but I really wanted you all to have the full story in hopes that we can take action today and either complete this project or start making the necessary de-obligation and returning of the funds to FTA. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the director, the board? Director Espinosa?
Well, no questions, just a comment. I think that we should move forward with the project. It's been years since we approved the purchase of the building. And we every time we go into the MCAG office, we see that everybody's pretty crammed in there. So we want to make sure that there's plenty of space on the next building, and it looks good. And I know that we don't want to lose 600,000, just like any CMAG grant. If you use it for a specific purpose, otherwise you lose it, you send somewhere else. So we don't want to lose those funds the same way. So yeah, the design looks pretty good, and so we need to. I think we got to move forward tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Director Nagy.
Yes, thank you. I am for this project. I think we need to get it done. It's overdue. Just some questions and comments that I see. It seems like in the reading of the staff report that we've kind of been a little short on, we've gone over all the different estimates that the engineer has produced up to date. And so I just question whether we have enough money here at this time. And then the timeline, if we're only 30% designed, only 30% of the design is done, can we get this done and through the city on the schedule we're talking, because I know most cities are way behind on their planning and permitting services. The other thing I just like to throw in, and since I am in the building industry right now, building materials are at an all-time astronomical high. A piece of OSB plywood that was selling for about $15 a year ago is now upwards of $60 a sheet. A 2x4, 8 foot long that was $3 a year ago is almost $9. So you could see it's tripled, quadrupled in pricing. So I just want to make sure we have enough here that we don't have to fall short again or scrimp at the end of this thing. That's all. But I am for the project.
I really appreciate that, both Director Espinoza, I appreciate the support, and if I could, and yours as well, Director Nagy, you know, I'm going to be as candid as I only know how to be. This project, I think you're onto something. Our cost estimate is new. We did, the TRB asked for that when we spoke with them about this project in January or February. So the 950,000 is an estimate that came in within the last month or so, but it is at 30% design. So, and we are talking about construction in 8 months from now. So all of those things are correct. In terms of the budget, I'll just be honest, we have the money to budget more for the potential for a contingency. But we are also recognizing that we want this project to be, you know, we want to be as responsible with our public funds as possible. We recognize, you know, this project has had a long history. And quite frankly, the commitment that the team and I, you know, discussed yesterday was, if we get to 100% design and that construction cost comes in high, we're gonna have to figure out how to make it work, because we need this project. So, you know, the two options for us at that time would be to, as you say, scrimp and save and try to figure out how to make that work, or to come to the board and say, okay, like, this is where we're at. The construction estimate now is here. Do you want us to increase this budget, or do you want us to scrimp and save? I was trying to avoid that decision because you can imagine, but you know, from what we know, we have a very modest contingency, and that's that 10% for change orders. It is, I just want to be honest, you know, that's a real possibility. As you mentioned, the cost is astronomical, but we're also trying to be very realistic, you know, with what we can do. So, you know, now if the board said, hey, why don't we add and program an extra 300,000 to the project, I wouldn't argue, but it's really something that the staff is really just committed to wanting to see get done, because for all the comments you mentioned, you know, we're just a little tight in here. To your last question on schedule, we did put the schedule together yesterday based on the feedback from Comstock. Stephanie with the city did kind of warn us that that permitting process can take maybe a little longer. So this is our best case estimate. This is what we would be able to work on, but you know, they are estimates. So that's what our commitment is, to try to move forward.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about moving forward on this project?
I see no other hands raised.
And how about from the public?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we need a motion to move forward with this project or give the funds back. So
This is Nagy. I'd like to move to approve this.
Okay.
Espinoza, second.
All right, so let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira, Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All righty. then we are moving on to item number 12. Item number 12 are 2 discussion items which will be presented by staff one at a time to allow board members to ask questions and provide staff direction. Item 12A is the transit monthly update, and that's Christine, we think, maybe?
Yes, that would be me.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, directors. Kate and I are going to be tag teaming this one. So Kate's going to be sharing her screen here. Just a quick update on what's been going on at TJPA. We have seen a decrease in ridership. Overall, we've officially had 1 year of reduced service and just being affected by the pandemic, but we continue to see a decrease in our ridership. If you go to the next slide, there's the ridership by route. It seems to be increasing on a daily basis, but overall is still significantly lower than previous years. And then just some of the things that have been going on over the past month. We began collecting fares on March 15th. We continue to offer free rides for passengers going to their vaccination appointments. We've provided a total of 20 rides to date. We are selling tickets at the Transpo. It was something that's been suspended for a while. The customers are happy to have that back. We are offering card purchase only. And then, as always, tickets are available on the bus and at the MCAG offices. Some of our satellite ticket sales locations are also closed because most of them are community centers. We're continuing with our COVID-19 precautions, keeping our vehicles clean and social distancing where we can. We passed CHP inspections, our first under First Transit. We passed with no findings, no vehicles were taken out of service. So that's extremely excellent because that means they're keeping our vehicles safe and operable, which is very important. And then we've been increasing our efforts to improve and update bus stops in our service area. And so I'll be reaching out to some of you in your jurisdictions to set up some time to talk about that. If you have any bus stops within your jurisdictions that need attention, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any Stacy or anyone on our team. I'm glad to address them, and we have some funding in our budget to start replacing shelters and making major bus stop improvements. So I'm looking forward to that. We celebrated our 25th anniversary. So we had some customer appreciation winners that we were handing out kind of goodies, just surprising them en route. These were daily travelers. And then we celebrated International Women's Day. And we also had, we've been preparing for the launch of the microbus. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate to give you guys an update. We are planning to launch on May 1st. And so we're really excited about it, but I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Christine. Good afternoon, everyone. So just a quick reminder of what the microbus is. It is going to be a microtransit service, which is kind of like a hybrid between an Uber and public transit system. So there is a defined service area, which is going to be the west side of the county. There will be virtual stops as well as physical stops every quarter mile. And this service is going to be an on-demand service, meaning that passengers can request a trip and we should have a vehicle there within 15 to 40 minutes. That's our goal. So again, it is going to provide demand response services. Passengers can use an app on a smartphone, a website, or they can call into customer service to request a trip. And then we will also provide paratransit services door to door, and advanced reservations are allowed. Again, the pilot program is going to take place in the west side of the county. So it'll be Gustin, Santa Nela, Dos Palos, and Los Banos. And then just a reminder, the Los Banos fixed route is also being updated concurrently with the microbus service to allow for some easier passenger connections. So here I would like to show you the logo, and I'd like to thank Mary Michael and her team. The logo design was done in-house and we think it looks great. They did a great job incorporating the bus logo into our new service. And then really quick, an example of how this will work. So again, passengers can use a computer or call in to make a reservation. But obviously this example is what the passenger will see when they're using the app on their smartphone. So first, passengers will have to register. So they will put in their name, phone number, email, password to create an account. And once they've created an account, they'll be able to sign in and out as they please. To sign in, all they'll need is their email and password. Once they've signed in, they'll come to this screen to be able to book a ride. So they'll choose their pickup location. Again, that can be a physical or a virtual stop, as well as their drop-off location. So that'll be here. Again, physical or virtual stop. The passenger will be able to choose the number of passengers riding, and if any of those passengers require a mobility device or require use of a bike rack. The passenger will put in their request time and their date of service. So if it's for today, tomorrow, or up to 2 weeks in advance, the passenger will click Find Rides, and the app will bring up all available rides to them. So ideally, there will be several options. Once the passenger decides which trip they would like to take, they will just click that trip. That trip will show the passenger the fare that will be required, and then their booking is complete. This last picture here just shows how people can access their profile. So the passenger can click this little hamburger here, access their profile. They will be able to see previous trips they've taken, trips that are upcoming, and then be able to book more rides, etc. So currently we are starting our community outreach process. That is happening in both English and Spanish. Staff training is in progress now for not only contractor staff, but for TJPA staff as well. And then the app development is almost complete. So we're looking to launch the app hopefully within the next week. And like Christine said, our first day of service is May 1st. So just a couple of weeks away. And we're all really excited about that. And with that, we can take any questions.
Are there any questions? Oh, Director Espinosa.
Thank you. Yeah, questions. Does the app have a payment method? And also too, if are they, because the app, if you can probably, a history and a history of the payment, that way they're able to see how much they spent, or if they can keep a credit on, or if they can pay with a credit card, or if they can pay, advance payment of $20, $40 for the week, or whatever. So I think that enhancement would greatly help to the app, and also too, if there's also a link where you can move the app to a different language, maybe not just but maybe a different language, because we have a lot of SIGs here in Livingston, Hmong, and Merced, so different languages. I'm pretty sure that with more enhanced features, I think the public will have a better way of riding the bus around our county. Thank you.
Absolutely. And yes, so the answer actually to both of those questions is yes. The passenger can supply a credit or debit card information in the app. And then the fare would be charged direct that way. Or if the passenger chooses, they can pay a cash fare on board or use a pass. And the app will have translate features on it, so that passengers can click a link basically to be able to translate to other languages.
Thank you. That was great.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? That sounds exciting.
We're really excited for it.
Nice. Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, then we're going to move to item 12B, which is a presentation of a draft operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2021-22, and that would be for NAV. So NAV, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Christina and I will be tackling this jointly. We'll be going over the challenges that we overcame in 2021, along with achievements. And we're going giving a draft summary along with how the funding is broken down by different types of funding and our expenditures. And then we'll go into our capital and explain our capital plan, and that would conclude our presentation. So Christine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nav. So before you is just some challenges that we've experienced in 2021. Many of our funding sources were impacted due to the revenue loss from the pandemic. So FTA was able to, the federal government was able to allocate some funding to help some of our transit agencies in the United States. And they've instructed us to use that COVID relief funding up front and save our future allocations because we anticipate the reduction in revenues for some time. Our state transit assistance, the funding derived of diesel sales tax has decreased. We will continue to realize that as we receive it about 6 months in arrears. The fare box revenues have decreased, and some of the or all of the relief funding has not required a match. And so that's allowed transit agencies across the nation to suspend bus fares. The bus suspended fare collection for 8.5 months for the fiscal year. And because of this fare suspension, many of our fare programs were suspended. So the Measure V, Merced College, and UC Merced and daily fare collection was suspended as all passengers were riding for free and didn't have to show those forms of ID to qualify. So personnel shortages at the facility for the operations and maintenance also resulted in reduced service. We were just unable to make service work with the personnel we had. Some of the COVID relief opportunities that we had included the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security, otherwise known as CARES Act. We received 2 rounds of that. 6.9 of it was used for operating expenses. And we also received the CRISA Act, which was the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. We got 1 round of that, and that was $1.5 million for operational expenses in fiscal year 21-22. And also included is the American Rescue Plan, which has 1.9 allocated for operational expenses in 21-22. And I didn't mention the CARES Act, but we'll be using 1.1 million of that remaining allocation in the same fiscal year. So some of the achievements for 2021, the first and most important is we were able to provide safe daily transit service in a pandemic without significant impact to the community. People were still able to get to their daily jobs, and we kept people as safe as possible. We implemented the free fare services, both 2 vaccination clinics and polling places as we underwent a major election. We provided appropriate PPE and safety equipment for operators, passengers, and staff. We have launched, or we will be launching, the microbus on the west side of Merced County to modify existing fixed route services, with the end goal being to make the system more efficient. So not necessarily, cutting down on those empty buses or those extra hours that we're spending where people are not riding, and have this be a lot more of a customized service. We've initiated the purchase of well overdue fleet. We have 5 battery electric buses expected for delivery in early 2022. 7 transit diesel buses, 35-foot for delivery in January, February of 22. 4 cutaways and 3 cutaways for delivery about mid-year as well. So you should see a lot more new buses on the road come early 2022. We completed the first year of our operations and maintenance contract, our first full year. First transit started in May of 2020. We successfully submitted documents requested for the FTA triennial review. It's a big, every 3 years, we undergo a review of how compliant we are with our federal requirements of our funding. And so we've successfully submitted documents and look forward to the results of our inspection, or our actual on-site inspection. We've filled key vacant positions at the agency. We've hired 2 assistant transit managers, which have just been able to just pick up and make things keep moving. It's been great. And we've continued safety enhancements and much needed repairs to the fleet. So the summary for the budget before you today includes the 3 sources of funding for COVID-19. We project a revenue loss of our fare box revenues due to COVID-19 related decrease in ridership. And we're seeing an increase in the operating budget of just over $1 million, a total of 6.9%. The operations and maintenance contract that was approved in late 2019 worked those annual increases into the 5-year contract that we signed with First Transit. So that annual increase makes up 60% of the total increase of our budget for the year. The rest of the increase is the maintenance to our vehicles and facilities. With an operations and maintenance facility, there are required ongoing maintenance as the facility starts to age, and then maintenance to our vehicles that are long overdue for replacement. Some of the technology upgrades that we have scheduled are just the routine updates to our paratransit softwares and our automatic vehicle location. So that's how people are able to track the bus in the app. We have not included any sort of cost of living adjustments for TJPA staff. We maintain staffing levels. So there are no new positions proposed. The priorities for the year include the replacement of our aging fleet, facility and bus stop maintenance within each of your jurisdictions, and capital projects to address the lasting impacts of COVID-19 and the future electrification of our fleet. So this is just a quick summary of just considerations of the type of funding that we get. You can see a large portion of it is made up of our federal funds, and then state funding and local funding. The state funding often comes through federal allocations or is derived of statewide sales taxes on fuels or other emissions. And so most of them are annual apportionments, but all of the ones that are not local do require a match, unless it's something like this one-time funding that we've received for COVID-19 response. And so fare boxes are also considered revenue, and those all serve as matches to make those grants functional for the agency. So with that, we'll jump into the numbers, and I'll hand this over to Nav to go through.
Thank you, Christine. So as Christine mentioned, we did receive relief funds from the federal government in amounts of we were utilizing about $4.6 million in this year's budget. Of that, $1.1 million will be in the CARES Act money, about 1.9 of the American Rescue Plan, and 1.5 in the CRISA Act. The importance of these fundings are we can only utilize it for operational. We cannot utilize these fundings for capital. So what we did is we kind of, looked at where can we reduce our funding. But the other thing, as Christine mentioned, is we're seeing a reduction in our fare box. That means less people are riding the bus because of the pandemic. And pre-COVID, our fare box were around $1 million. And so what we're saying is we're seeing about a 60% decrease in our fare box. So this funding will help offset those decreases in our fare box. Christine, next slide. So as Christine mentioned, our operation did increase by $1 million. The majority of the cost is our operation maintenance contract, which is a 5-year agreement. The increase of that is $582,000. Christine also mentioned, since our fleet is getting older, it's getting more expensive to repair those buses. So we are incorporating another $150,000 to our maintenance equipment. We also are increasing our professional services, which, as Christine mentioned, various types of technology equipment along with staffing costs. If we look at our overall budget of $15 million, 62% is made up of the operation and maintenance contract with our provider. That's our expenditures. Christine, this one's yours.
Okay, so just line item key expenditures for the year include the renovation of the administration building, the item that Stacy just presented before this, the bus replacements that have been approved over the last 2 fiscal years. Buses take anywhere from 12 to 18 months from award or from authority to start purchasing, and then we have to go and make sure the grants are all lined up before we issue any sort of purchase order. And so the bus replacements are scheduled at $8.6 million for 19 vehicles. That's 5 zero-emission buses, 7 full-size transit coaches, and 7 cutaways. We also have the fare box collection system. This is an item that has been in the budget for since 1819. It was our low carbon transit operations program funding. This will allow for an account-based fare collection and cashless option. We are working with Caltrans to see if there's a way that we can be integrated into the statewide network of cashless transit fares. And so That will be a project that we pick up in the next fiscal year, as well as the bus stop installation and improvements. These are updating existing shelters that are in need of repair, system shelter improvements, and bus stop improvements in general. So, and then this will also help with the completion of the short range transit plan to reduce flag down stops, primarily in our urban areas where we have the ability to have the stops within walking distance from a majority of the population. And then those funding sources are also LC-TOP and LTF is serving as the match for that grant. Upcoming procurements for capital are additional buses. So 4 battery electric buses that we received a grant for, the Transit Intercity Rail Cooperative Program grant. And one of the buses is to be provided by the city of Merced. Details still to be established for one of their South Merced developments. And 13 replacement vehicles are scheduled for replacement in 22-23. We have 3 cutaways and 10 RBOCs, and those are important to start into the budget so that staff is able to start securing the grants that go along to help offset some of the contributions for the cost of those vehicles. And so here's a line item by actual funding source of all of our projects that I've just mentioned. I think the additional one is the electric infrastructure that you'll see, and that is to get the facility prepared for the electrification of our fleet. Staff will continue to seek grants. I know that there's some potential with the Air District to have them help offset some of the costs of that electric infrastructure. So staff will be reviewing that, and all other projects were approved by the TJPA governing board. And so this is just a quick snapshot of our capital fund and replacement plan. As you can see, we have pretty heavy fleet replacement in the upcoming 5 years. And so the next year will give us kind of a bit of a break so that we're not having to replace vehicles every year. The idea is to stagger them a bit so that we aren't just constantly procuring vehicles, and we can kind of go after those grants in bulk. So that concludes the presentation. If there are any questions or discussion.
Anyone have any questions? I'm not seeing any hands. No? Good job then. Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else. I can't see everyone. So Mary Michael, are there any other questions or hands up?
No, there aren't, Madam Chair. You got it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for all that information. That was a lot to take in. We're now going to move to item number 13, which is the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority agenda. And there are no informational items on this agenda. So we're moving to item number 14, which is the consent calendar, which also doesn't have anything on it. So let's move to item number 15, which includes 3 action items. These will be presented by staff and considered by the board one at a time, and there will be an opportunity for public comment on each item. So item 15A is a request to authorize a contract for the landfill tipping fee rate study, and that would be Kyle. Kyle, you're up. I don't see you, Kyle. There you are.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Hi.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you. Yeah, this comes from a request by the board last September. It seeks approval to enter a contract with HF&H to conduct a landfill tipping fee rate study. The board requested a rate study to be conducted to determine if the RWA should continue using the current geographical based rates. Currently, both landfills are accepting 3 streams of material. And with SB 1383 approaching, a 4th will be added soon. So the RFP scope was written to take that into account, and it included determining revenue requirements for the RWA over the next 10 years, conducts a cost of service analysis, design rates, and recommend adjustments over the next 10 years while addressing Prop 218 considerations, and identifies any revenue sources not currently being utilized. The RFP was released in February of this year, and we received only 1 proposal in response. Staff reached out to some agencies to see why they may not have responded. And they let us know that their workloads and conflict of interest were the reasons they did not submit. So staff and HF&H are prepared to begin work on this project immediately and would expect to have it completed in the next 4 to 6 months. Therefore, we are recommending authorizing the executive director to enter into a contract for the landfill tipping fee rate study with HF&H in an amount not to exceed $110,000. So if there's any questions for that, Eric or I'd be happy to answer those.
Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we need to have a motion.
Maria, I'll make the motion.
Peggy, second.
All right, Joy, will you please take the roll call?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira, Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 15B is a request to authorize an amendment to the HF&H contract for diversion and recycling plan assistance. So this is Kyle.
Yes, again. So the RWA is recommending an amendment to the current HF&H contract where they're assisting us with SB 1383 requirements. The amendment is to include services develop and administer an RFQ, a request for qualifications, to assist in the negotiations of a contract for designer, builder, and operator of a facility to process organic material at Highway 59. The amendment would not exceed $300,000 and would bring the total value of that contract to $637,895. On March 18th, the governing board was presented with the action plan from HF&H, and the board directed RWA to implement the 3 actions presented for the authority. The first of those actions was to facilitate processing of organic material, including food waste, for member agencies through contracting arrangements or facility expansion. To do this, the authority will need to develop a contract with a qualified partner, and HF&H has experience in managing such a process. And along with the information they've developed for RWA and the jurisdictions over the last year, staff feels this amendment will best serve the authority. We are recommending that the board authorize the executive director to amend the HF&H contract to include an additional $300,000 and the task of developing and managing the RFQ process for contract for a facility designer, builder, and operator. Again, if there's any questions, Eric and I will be happy to answer those.
I don't see any hands. Are there any questions? All righty. Are there any public comments?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Pedroso, so moved.
Maria, second.
Okay, there's been a first and a second. So do we need a roll call?
Yes, please. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel, I'm
Aye.
sorry. Thank you. Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira, Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
Director Silvera, Director Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we're moving on to item 15. This is another Kyle, but it's a request to authorize a construction contract for the Billy Wright landfill entrance improvements.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this one has two requests. First is to authorize the executive director to contract for construction of the Billy Wright landfill entrance improvements, as well as transferring funding from 3 projects to project 80043. And project 80043 was originally budgeted for the improvements of Billy Wright entrance in fiscal year 1819. With a placeholder of 650,000 and another 200 added in fiscal year 2021. A total of $240,698 have been spent on design, engineering, electrical, and project management, leaving $599,302 necessitating the transfer of the funds. The 3 projects that we're transferring from is project 80014, and that's for the partial closure design of Billy Wright. And that is not a high priority right now, as we have about 5 years before that project is needed. The other 2 are 80026 and 80053. Both of those are for organic designing, diversion planning, and processing facilities, which with the new contract for hauler in Los Banos, those 2 projects are not needed at this time. So this project is needed for many reasons. One of the most glaring is the scale house is in need of replacement, as well as we only have 1 scale for entrance and exit. There are some photos in your staff report that shows exactly how the traffic backs up coming in and going out of that facility, with both residents, commercial vehicles, as well as haulers being backed up in both directions. In August, the RWA released an invitation to bid for construction of 2 new scale houses, 2 modular scale house, and paving work. And we received only 1 bid at that time. And the bid was significantly higher than estimated. RWA and the consulting engineers met with the bidders and discussed those cost differences. And following those discussions, the RWA chose not to accept the bid and to reevaluate the project. While reevaluating the project, Mid-Valley approached the RWA and as a new hauler and processor material for Los Banos, they requested that we build 2 new resource recovery pads at Billy Wright. The 2 pads would make loading material easier, keep it cleaner for better processing, and increase the market value. Mid-Valley offered to assist financially in the project, as the pads would be benefit to both the RWA and Mid-Valley. RWA revised the initial project to include the 2 resource recovery pads. Also, additional utility work and a methane barrier underneath the scale house was added. The revised project was estimated to cost $1.8 million. RWA released a new invitation to bid. Bidders meeting was held with a large turnout. However, we only received 1 bid again. This was from the same contractor that originally bid on the project. Therefore, staff is recommending the Merced Regional Waste Management Authority Board authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the construction of Billy Wright landfill entrance improvements in the amount not to exceed $2,330,000 and authorize a transfer of $1,730,698 from the 3 projects to the single project of Billy Wright construction.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Oh, Director Faria.
No questions, just comments that we very much appreciate this. We've been having some, garbage has been headline news in Los Banos lately. It seems like that's all everybody wants to do now is talk trash. But I just spoke with the acting city manager yesterday about people saying, well, you can't, the trucks can't get in and out. They're waiting in line with the regular civilian, so to speak, garbage delivery. And this is going to allow for two scale houses and 2 entrances in. Is that correct? One for the professional haulers and 1 for, if necessary. It would take both, but they could go. Both could use both.
The scales will normally be used as 1 entrance and 1 exit scales. Okay. So right now, if you look at those photos, there are lines of vehicles on both sides of the scale house, and then they alternate, 1 coming in and 1 going out. So what we'll be able to do is have one dedicated in and one dedicated exit scale, so those won't back up.
Because right now it's one lane, essentially two directions, one lane.
Correct.
So we're
Correct, and
gonna
we
now
have-
put a 2-lane road in.
Yes, that is the goal.
That's just like the Stevenson Bridge over there. Many years ago. Anyway, thanks. We very much appreciate getting this done in Los Patos.
Sure, thanks, sir.
Okay, Director Kale.
I don't have anything, but I would like to ask Kyle a question after we get through this vote on the 59 landfill. Highway 59 landfill.
Yes, sir.
I can wait till after the vote. We should get the vote first.
Oh, okay. Are there any other questions then? Okay. Are there any comments from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Maria, I'll move to approve the item as submitted.
Second by Nagy.
All right, so roll call, please.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pedroso,
Aye.
Director Serrato,
Yes.
thank you. Director Hoag,
Yes.
thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we're going to move to item number 16. We have two discussion items. Item 16A is,
Madam Chair, can I ask Kyle a question?
oh, sure. Go ahead, Director Kale.
Kyle, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one of the questions I have is, our staff is having problems when they take their sweeper and leaf machine into the 59 of having a 2 hour and 2.5 hour waiting time to get through there. Is there any reason why this is happening? And because 59 has it in and out, should be quick enough for them too.
Director Kale, sorry, Kyle, if I can maybe jump in. Director Kale, thank you for that comment. This is actually the first that I've heard of 59 and that, so we'll go and we'll reach out to Atwater. We'll find out what we need to do. I would expect that this is not Monday through Friday. I mean, I've been here all week. I haven't seen a 2 hour wait line for anybody. I would say I haven't seen a 1 hour wait line for anybody. And even when we get to that point, there's so many eyes on our scales at 59 that we will immediately issue, different circumstances for the public to get them through quicker to alleviate those scales. So let me look into that. I would say that it's probably a Saturday, possibly. Saturdays generally seem to be the busier times for us, but I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Eric. And if you get back to me, then I'll look into it from our side too.
Absolutely, I will do that.
Okay, so now we're moving on to, I got confused, I'm sorry. We're moving on to item 16. Item 16A is Waste Management Authority update, and that would be you, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Nothing further to add. Happy to answer any questions.
I have just a comment. I would like to thank everyone for the Dos Palace cleanup. You guys did a great job. We had people lined up all snaking through the whole town, and it was just wonderful. So I really appreciate all of your help. So thank you. Any other comment?
That goes right to Kyle. I was gonna say, Kyle, thank you. The efforts that him and his staff did, but thank you for that comment.
Good job. Okay, so item 16B is a discussion on illegal dumping recommendations. And Kyle, do you have something that you're going to tell us?
No, ma'am. The memo was sent to the board, I believe the end of last week or early this week. And if there are any questions regarding that memo, Eric and I and Stacy be happy to answer those.
Are there any other questions about the illegal dumping?
Madam Chair, I'll just offer that if, I know that we're running late on this, so I think the memo, Kyle did an excellent job on it, and I imagine if the board wants to continue the discussion, just any director that would like to do that, just, shoot me a note, let me know, and we can add it for a future discussion item in the months to come.
Okay. All right, so then thank you very much for your reports. We're going to move to item 17, which is Executive Director's report, and that would be you, Stacy.
I will not add anything in addition. Just thank you all for your support today on this really big agenda.
Okay, and so then we're moving on to item 18, Director's reports. Are there any directors? Oh, there you go. Director Espinosa, you go ahead.
Scott's not here today, so I want to make a few comments today.
Thanks.
Hey, you know what, being on the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority and transportation, and also with the bus and yards, is there a way, I don't know if Christine's still there, but are we allowed to make sure that we advertise whether it's the Amtrak, the bus in our county, yards, and in the future ACE train? We want to make sure that we advertise enough for the public when they're boarding, that there's materials where they can follow, the easy access to get from one side of the county, the west side, to the east, and then to Amtrak, or if they want to go to Yosemite through yards, or in any way, if they want to go north to Turlock or eventually north to Sacramento, to hop on whether it's Amtrak or ACE train in the future, or the high-speed rail whenever it gets here. So I think we need to work together, make sure that we get more riders, and that everything flows better in our county. So we just want to make sure that we give the public the best possibilities of getting around in our county. And I think that we will all benefit around our county, every community in Merced County. So that's just a comment, and hopefully that gets every director can see that and think the same way. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other directors that would like to make a comment before we move into closed session? Mary Michael, do you see any hands?
I do not.
All right. Well, with that, then I think that we will go into closed session, and I would just like to thank everyone. Is there any public comment before we move on?
There is not, Madam Chair. And if you would like, we can move all of the directors to attendee mode.
I do see one.
Oh, now there is one, yes.
Director Faria.
Yes, I will be recusing myself from this closed session today, as I did on the item in the past.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, we do have a public comment from Dennis Brazil, who just raised his hand. So we will get him off of mute.
Okay.
Dennis, you may unmute yourself and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mary Michael. Hey, I just had a question. It's actually for you, Mary. So I logged into the meeting, but I don't know that if my video's on or have any control over any of that. So that was my first question, just to see is that normal for the way the MCAG meetings go? For the Zoom?
Yes, for the members of the public, they are in attendee mode. And then once they raise their hand, we unmute them.
Okay, but is my video on though? Because I couldn't tell if my video.
No, it is not.
Okay, so audio only.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And then the other question I had was, once you guys go back to regular public meetings, whenever that is, are we going to continue the Zoom meetings as well?
This evening?
No, for future meetings. Are the Zoom meetings going to stay online along with
I'll defer to our executive director on that.
That, if we weren't running so late, I was actually going to ask that question of the board about an interest of returning to in-person. I think there is a possibility that we would continue with an in-person virtual hybrid for public access, considering the size of our board and some of the social distancing challenges that we will find. But those decisions have not yet been made, but I imagine those discussions will happen here over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that it's a valid service to have both options, even if you go back to in-person meetings. The ease of having GoTo or Zoom meetings are pretty easy to manipulate through and operate and be able to get everybody together at one time. So that's all I had. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mary Michael, are we moving to closed session?
Madam Chair, if I could I just verify that Directors Kale and Serrato will also be recusing themselves from this closed session?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you both.
So, Madam Chair, we will move the directors into attendee mode so that no one on the Zoom session will be able to hear them or see them. And then once closed session returns, so they do not have to log off of Zoom. So you can stay on, and then once staff is alerted that closed session is over, we will move you back, all the directors and staff, to panelists so that we can resume the meeting.
And then we just call this number, right?
Yes, you should have the phone number and the passcode.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right. Then we will be going to closed session as of now.
So we lost some board members. So we have Director McDaniel, Director Hoag. That's it right now.
Yeah, at least Juan said that his iPad had died. But I think we can do the report without everyone.
Let me just make sure we're recording.
I'm here in support of you, April.
I think we are recording, and we will watch out if anyone else comes. We'll get them their audio enabled ASAP.
Okay, so the directors have concluded their closed session and discussion, and if council will report out.
Direction was given to staff. That's the report.
Short and sweet for the conversation that we had. So,
15
okay.
minutes, that's it.
With that, I would like to adjourn the meeting for the next time we will see you, and thank you so much. So, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.